Good day, and welcome to my podcast, When Things Go Wrong with Paul Taylor. My name is Paul Taylor, and I'm a licensed paralegal by the Law Society of Ontario. This is the first episode of this podcast, and what I hope you will find to be both enjoyable, but most importantly, an informative podcast series on legal matters affecting your day-to-day life, being when things go wrong, as they inevitably always do. I would like to first state that the information contained in this episode or any other episode is not legal advice and in no way constitutes any agreement for legal services. The information provided in this episode and all other episodes is strictly for informational purposes only. For specific legal advice, please reach out to me at my website at www.paulsparalegal.ca, or you can send me an email at paul@paulsparalegal.ca. In this first episode of this podcast, I will be discussing who I am, the purpose of this podcast, and the general structure I intend to follow with the future episodes of this podcast. As I mentioned, my name is Paul Taylor, and I'm a licensed paralegal by the Law Society of Ontario. I've been practicing law for several years now. You can find more information about me on my website, paulsparalegal.ca, on the About Me page. Ontario is one of the few jurisdictions that licenses paralegals, like lawyers, to practice law. The purpose of licensing paralegals has a twofold public benefit. First is to provide the public with improved access to justice with more affordable options than using lawyers. Second was providing improved accountability of individuals who were not lawyers, but who were providing legal advice. And this is done by licensing paralegals like myself. Prior to becoming a licensed paralegal, I was a self-represented litigant, where I appeared before many courts, which has provided me with invaluable experience from my paralegal practice. My appearances included matters before Ontario's Small Claims Court, Ontario's Superior Court of Justice, Ontario's lower level appellate court, the Divisional Court, and the Ontario Court of Appeal for Ontario. I've even filed several leave applications to the Supreme Court of Canada. With fighting for myself for so many years, this has led me to become a paralegal and fight for other individuals just like you. I decided to create this podcast, When Things Go Wrong with Paul Taylor, with two purposes in mind. First was to try and help people like yourself from falling into the common pitfalls of needing legal help. Many people may say, Paul, is that not being counterproductive to your job? Well, yes, it is. However, I believe in helping people. So if I can save one person from having to endure a lengthy, nightmarish, costly legal process by taking some preventative steps, to me this is a good thing. Also, most importantly, and unfortunately, the reality is that in many cases, no matter what preventative actions you take, you may still end up needing to take legal action against another or a business to gain some justice. And that's where you might choose me as your representative. This leads me to my second purpose of the podcast. That is when things inevitably do go wrong, my goal of this podcast is to hopefully help you effectively prepare for the legal process. This is so you have a much better chance of getting justice that you are entitled to. I intend to structure most of the episodes in this podcast to have a two-part style, as I was saying. The first part will discuss how I can help you to prevent as much as possible having things go legally wrong in the topic area I'm discussing. The second part will then discuss when things unfortunately have gone wrong and how you can prepare your case to take action and defend against legal action in a case. The length of the podcast will vary. However, my goal will to keep the length of the podcast at around about 15 minutes. The reason for this length is so I do not end up boring you to death with too much technical legal mumbo jumbo. However, in some cases I may, with certain topics, split them into several episodes if the topic warrants it. My goal is to release a new episode each week. There may be some weeks when this is not possible due to holidays or my workload, but I will do my very best. In the upcoming episodes, I plan to cover many various legal topics affecting the everyday life of people living in Ontario, Canada. For this reason, I welcome any topic suggestions, that you would like me to discuss that are within the scope of practicing paralegals in Ontario. To be specifically clear, the scope of the practice of paralegals in Ontario is to appear before any administrative board, tribunal, or commission, small claims court matters, provincial offences matters, and criminal court matters where an individual is facing up to 6 months in jail on a summary conviction charge. If you have any idea for a topic, just send me an email to paul@paulsparalegal.ca. Well, this is the end of the first episode of this podcast, When Things Go Wrong with Paul Taylor. I hope you enjoyed it and will tune in for the next episode, which is When Things Go Wrong with Home Renovations and Repairs. In this podcast, I will provide some helpful tips to hopefully avoid any nightmare problems, and if a problem does arise, how you can prepare as best as you can for court. So thank you very much for listening, and see you next week.